The Galactic Council station hung in space like a jewel. It orbited the peaceful world of Prime, where 7 elder races had met for 10,000 years. Inside the Grand Chamber, delegates from across the galaxy gathered for another routine meeting. The air smelled of exotic gases that each species breathed, filtered and mixed by ancient machines. A tall reptilian creature with golden scales tapped his clawed fingers on the stone table. His species had ruled their corner of space for 8,000 years. He was bored. Another human transmission had arrived that morning, and he found it amusing. "They are asking again," said with a laugh that sounded like rocks grinding together. "The humans want to talk. They want to join our council. How cute." The others shifted in their seats. Some smiled. Others looked at the data screens showing information about humanity. One small planet, one star, no faster than light travel. Their ships used fusion drives, which was technology the Council had abandoned 5,000 years ago. High Arbiter sat at the center of the curved table. He was older than anyone could remember. His body was wrapped in flowing robes that hid most of his features, but his eyes glowed with a soft blue light. He had seen civilizations rise and fall. He had guided the Council through wars and peace. But humans, they were barely worth noticing. "Let the vote proceed," said in a voice that echoed in everyone's mind. "Should we respond to the human transmission?" One by one, they voted. The result was the same as always: 7 votes against, 0 votes in favor. The humans would be ignored again. It was the 3rd year of silence. The humans kept sending messages into space, hoping someone would answer. The Council had decided long ago that humanity needed to prove itself first. Maybe in another 1,000 years they would be ready. "They do not even have proper shields," another noted. "Their largest ship is barely 300 meters long. What could they possibly teach us?" Stood up his tall frame, casting a shadow across the chamber floor. "I propose we stop wasting time on this matter. Humanity is confined to one system. They pose no threat. They offer nothing of value. When they finally build something worth our attention, perhaps then we will talk." The other nodded in agreement. The meeting moved on to more important matters: trade routes, border disputes between elder races, scientific expeditions, the kind of business that actually mattered in the galaxy. But in the station's lower levels, where technicians monitored sensors and communications, something strange appeared on the screens. A junior operator, barely out of training, stared at the readings with confusion. "Supervisor," she called out, "I am detecting a large gravitational anomaly." The supervisor walked over, his 4 arms crossed. "Where?" "Coming from the direction of human space. But that cannot be right. The readings say it is massive, larger than anything in our database." The supervisor looked at the numbers and frowned. "It is probably a sensor error. The array has been acting strange lately. File a maintenance report." "But sir, the anomaly is moving, and it is moving fast, faster than our fastest ships." The supervisor waved a dismissive hand. "Impossible. Humans do not have faster-than-light travel. Everyone knows this. Reset the sensors and run a diagnostic." The junior operator did as she was told, but the readings did not change. The anomaly was real. It was moving toward their sector of space at incredible speed. She filed the report and hoped someone would investigate, but deep down, she knew no one would care. After all, it was probably nothing. High above Prime in the council chamber felt something he had not felt in centuries. It was faint, like a whisper at the edge of his consciousness. A feeling of unease. Something was different about the galaxy today, but he could not place what it was. He dismissed the feeling as age playing tricks on his ancient mind. Meanwhile, at the edge of the system, space itself seemed to tear open. The fabric of reality rippled and bent. Energy cascaded in brilliant blue waves, and then, emerging from impossible physics, came a ship. The UHSF Quiet dropped out of slipstream drive with barely a sound. It was enormous. 47 kilometers from bow to stern. Its hull was dark gray, covered in angular armor plates that absorbed light rather than reflected it. Thousands of weapons bristled along its surface, though none were active. Massive engines at the rear glowed with contained power that could push the ship to speeds the galaxy had never seen. On the bridge, Admiral Han Solo stood with his hands behind his back. He was a man in his late 50s, with silver streaks in his dark hair and eyes that had seen too many battles. He wore the dark blue uniform of the United Human Space Force, with medals that represented humanity's struggles and triumphs. His face was calm, but his jaw was set with determination. "Status report," he said quietly. Captain Nupark, his second-in-command, checked the holographic displays that floated around the command center. She was younger than the Admiral, with sharp features and an even sharper mind. "We have arrived at the coordinates. All systems are operating normally. The slipstream drive performed perfectly." "Good. Engage stealth systems. I want us invisible until I say otherwise." "Yes, sir." The quiet seemed to fade from existence. Its advanced stealth technology bent sensor waves around the hull. It absorbed radiation. It masked the gravitational signature. To anyone looking, there was nothing but empty space. Admiral Han Solo allowed himself a small smile. 3 years ago, the Council had ignored humanity's first message. Then the second. Then dozens more. Earth had tried peace. They had tried diplomacy. They had tried begging for recognition. And the Council had answered with silence. So humanity had built the quiet. Not as a weapon of war, though it could be. Not as a threat, though it was. But as a statement. A message that could not be ignored. The galaxy would finally see that humanity was not some primitive species playing with fire and fusion. They were equals. And today, the Council would learn that lesson. "Begin Phase 1, Han Solo said. "Deploy the scout drones. I want to know everything about this station and its defenses, and monitor all communications. I want to know when they discover we are here." "Understood, Admiral." In the quiet darkness of space, the massive warship waited. Inside its hull, 50,000 people went about their duties. Engineers maintained the revolutionary engines. Soldiers trained in combat simulators. Scientists studied alien data. Families lived in residential districts that looked like small towns. The quiet was not just a ship. It was a city, a fortress, a promise. And that promise was simple. Humanity would not be ignored anymore. The interior of the quiet was a marvel that the galaxy had never seen. Deep inside the massive hull, engineer Woo-Jin Lee walked through corridors wide enough to drive vehicles through. He carried a data pad and checked readings from the propulsion systems. His dark hair was messy, and there were dark circles under his eyes. He had barely slept in days, but he could not rest. Not now. Not when everything humanity had worked for was at stake. Woo-Jin entered the main engineering bay, and his breath caught like it did every time. The chamber was enormous, stretching up for 50 levels. At the center was the slipstream core, a sphere of contained energy that glowed with soft blue light. It hummed with power that could tear holes in space itself. This was his creation. Well, his and 500 other brilliant minds who had worked in secret for 7 years. "Status?" he asked his assistant, a young woman named. "All green, sir. The core is stable. We can jump again whenever the Admiral gives the order." Woo-Jin nodded and made notes on his pad. The slipstream drive was humanity's greatest achievement. For decades, Earth scientists had tried to understand faster-than-light travel by studying the same physics the Council used. But it never worked. They were always one step behind, copying principles they did not fully understand. Then someone had an idea. What if they stopped trying to copy alien technology? What if they approached the problem differently? Earth had developed in isolation, with no ancient race to guide them. Maybe that was their strength, not their weakness. Woo-Jin had been part of the team that cracked it. They looked at quantum mechanics from an angle the Council had never considered. They used mathematics that Earth had developed independently, and suddenly the puzzle solved itself. The slipstream drive was born. It was faster than anything the Council had, and it was uniquely human. Across the ship, in the fighter bay, Lieutenant Wu was running her squadron through drills. She was 28 years old, with an easy smile and reflexes that made her the best pilot in the fleet. She sat in the cockpit of her fighter, feeling the responsive controls under her hands. "Red Squadron, form up on my wing," she said into her helmet comm. "We are going to practice attack pattern Delta." 12 fighters moved into formation inside the massive hangar. Each one was small compared to the Quiet, but they were technological miracles. They could accelerate faster than most Council capital ships. Their weapons could punch through shields that the galaxy thought were unbeatable, and like the Quiet, they could appear and disappear from sensors at will. Wu led her squadron through the drill, her fighter dancing through the air with grace. She loved flying. She loved the freedom of it, but more than that, she loved what these fighters represented. Humanity was done asking for permission. They were done being invisible. Today, they would show the galaxy what humans could do. In another part of the ship, Dr. Jin Song sat in her laboratory, surrounded by screens showing data about alien species. She was in her mid-30s, with kind eyes and a smile that put people at ease. She had spent her entire career studying aliens from a distance, analyzing the few transmissions Earth had intercepted. Now, she might actually meet them. "We have to get this right," she muttered to herself, reviewing the cultural package she had prepared. It contained everything important about humanity: art, music, history, mathematics, philosophy. She wanted the Council to see that humans were more than just soldiers and engineers. They were poets. They were dreamers. They were people who had climbed up from caves to reach for the stars. But she was worried. The Quiet was a warship, no matter how you looked at it. Its weapons could destroy planets. Its shields could withstand attacks that would vaporize cities. Would the Council see past the military power? Would they understand that humanity wanted peace? She sighed and saved her work. It was out of her hands now. The Admiral would decide how first contact happened. She just hoped he would give her the chance to show humanity's better side. On the command bridge, Admiral Han Sol stood at the center of a circular platform. Around him, dozens of officers worked at holographic displays. Captain Ne approached with a data slate. "Admiral, the scout drones have completed their survey. We have full information on the Council station's defenses, layout, and capabilities." And unimpressive. Their shields are old technology, at least by our standards. Their weapons are powerful but slow to target, and their sensor systems. She paused and smiled slightly. They still have not detected us, even with the drones moving around. Han Sol nodded slowly. This was what he had expected, but it was good to have confirmation. The Council had ruled the galaxy for so long that they had stopped innovating. Why improve when you were already the strongest? Why change when everything worked fine? But humanity had never had that luxury. Earth's history was full of competition, nations racing against each other, companies fighting for advantage. Even in the darkest times, humans had always pushed forward, always tried to do better. That drive had carried them to the stars. "The Council has no idea what is coming," Ne said quietly. "They will soon enough," Han Sol replied. "What about their communications?" "Aegis has been monitoring everything. We now speak all 7 Council languages fluently. And Admiral, they were talking about us in their meeting today." "What did they say?" Ne's expression hardened. "They voted not to respond to our messages. Again, called us cute, said we are not worth their time." A flash of anger crossed Han Sol's face, but he controlled it quickly. He had expected this. The Council thought humanity was beneath them, small, primitive, unimportant. That attitude was about to cost them dearly. "How long until they detect the anomaly we created entering the system?" "Unknown. Their sensors registered it briefly, but they dismissed it as an error. They do not believe we can travel faster than light. Hansol walked to the viewport, looking out at the distant stars. Behind him, the bridge hummed with quiet activity. He thought about Earth, billions of kilometers away. He thought about the men and women aboard the Quiet who had volunteered for this mission, knowing they might never return home. He thought about the 3 years of silence from the Council. Humanity had tried peace. They had sent messages explaining who they were, what they had accomplished, what they could offer, and the Council had ignored every single one, because humans did not have the right technology, because they were confined to one system, because they were new and unproven. Well, now humanity had the technology. Now they had a ship that would make the Council's best vessels look like toys. Now they had capabilities that the galaxy did not know were possible, and they were going to use all of it to earn the one thing they had been. Respect. Captain Na, Hansol said, turning from the viewport. Prepare the ship for full operations. I want every system ready. I want the Council to see us at our full strength. Yes, sir. When do we make our move? Soon, but first we wait for them to come looking for us. Let them send their patrol fleet. Let them feel safe and superior. Then we show them what humanity has built. Na smiled. It was not a kind smile. They are not going to know what hit them. That is the point. Admiral Hansol returned to his command platform. Around him, the Quiet continued its silent watch over the system. Inside its hull, 50,000 people prepared for history. They were about to announce humanity's arrival to the galaxy in a way that could never be ignored or forgotten. The age of begging for recognition was over. The age of demanding equality was about to begin. Fleet Captain Al sat in his command chair aboard the Council patrol vessel Morning Star. He was a veteran of 300 years of service, with blue skin and 4 arms that moved with practiced efficiency. His species, had been part of the Council for 6,000 years. In all that time, he had never encountered a real threat. Sir, we are approaching the coordinates of the sensor anomaly, his navigator reported. Al nodded, barely paying attention. This was probably nothing, a comet, a rogue asteroid, maybe a sensor glitch like the technician said, but protocol demanded investigation, so here they were. 30 ships wasting fuel and time on empty space. Run a full sensor sweep, he ordered. Let us solve this mystery and return to base. The sensor operator worked his console and data flooded the screens. Empty space. A few asteroids, some cosmic dust, nothing unusual, nothing that would explain the readings from earlier. I detect nothing, sir. The area is clear. Al sighed. Mark it as sensor error in the log. Prepare to return to. Wait, another operator called out. I have multiple contacts, small craft appearing from nowhere. Al's eyes widened. On the tactical display, 12 red dots appeared. They had not been there a second ago. They simply materialized as if they had punched through from another dimension. Impossible, Al whispered. Where did they come from? The small craft were moving in formation, circling the Council fleet like sharks. They were fast, incredibly fast. Al's ships tried to get targeting locks, but the craft were too quick, too nimble. Sir, I cannot identify them. They are not in any database. Their energy signatures do not match any known species. Origin. Unknown, but sir, their technology is advanced, very advanced. Al felt a knot form in his stomach. In 300 years he had never seen anything like this. Charge weapons, shields to maximum, send a priority transmission to Council Station. We may have a hostile encounter. Inside the cockpit of her fighter, Lieutenant Wu grinned behind her helmet. She could see the Council ships scrambling, trying to figure out what was happening. Their movements were clumsy, their formations outdated. They were scared. Red Squadron maintain pattern, she said calmly. Do not engage, just let them see us. Copy that, Red Leader. These guys look pretty nervous. Good, that is the point. Stand by for Phase 2. Back on the Quiet's bridge, Admiral Hansol watched the tactical display. Everything was going according to plan. The Council patrol had found the fighters. Now they were confused and frightened. Perfect. Communications Officer Bin, are you ready? Bin Yang was 22 years old, the youngest officer on the bridge. She had studied languages her entire life, mastering 47 Earth languages before joining the Space Force. Now, thanks to the AI Aegis, she could speak all 7 Council languages perfectly. She was nervous, but she tried not to show it. Ready, Admiral. Translation matrices are loaded. Good, Captain Na, status on the sequence. Na checked her console. All systems ready. We can in 3 seconds on your command. Hansol took a deep breath. This was it. The moment humanity announced itself to the galaxy. He had thought about this day for 3 years. He had planned every detail. And now it was time. The Quiet, he said quietly. Full illumination. I want them to see every centimeter of us. Na entered the command, and something impossible happened. The stealth systems that had hidden the Quiet disengaged in a cascade of light. The ship seemed to grow into existence, expanding from nothing into a massive presence that dominated space. Every light on its hull activated. Every window glowed. The Quiet revealed itself in all its terrible glory. 47 kilometers of human engineering. 47 kilometers of weapons and shields and engines. 47 kilometers of humanity's determination made real. On the Morning Star, every alarm started screaming at once. Sensor screens went white with overload. Officers shouted in panic, and Fleet Captain Al stared at the tactical display with his mouth open. That cannot be real, he said. That is not possible. But it was real. It was very real. The ship on his sensors was larger than anything in recorded history. It was larger than the Council's biggest space stations. It made his fleet of 30 ships look like insects flying around a mountain. Sir, what are your orders? His second officer's voice was shaking. Al could not answer. His mind was racing. What species could build something like that? Where had it come from, and why was it here? Then the communication came through. A voice, speaking perfect, broadcast on all frequencies. This is the United Human Space Force vessel Quiet. We come in peace, but we come as equals. We request formal audience with the Galactic Council. Humans, the humans had built this. Impossible. Humans were primitive. They had no faster-than-light travel. They had no advanced technology. Everyone knew this. But the evidence was right in front of him. Massive, undeniable, real. Al tried to recover his composure. He was a fleet captain of the Council. He would not show fear, even though his hands were shaking. Unknown vessel, you have entered Council space without authorization. You will power down your weapons and submit to inspection. On the Quiet's bridge, Commander Min-O smiled coldly. He was the weapons officer, a man who spoke in quiet tones and thought in calculations. Admiral, shall I show them that our weapons are not online? No, Hansol said. Let them wonder. Bin, respond to their demand. Bin activated her comm. Fleet Captain Al, with respect, we will not power down. Our weapons are currently offline, but you lack the sensor capability to verify this. We have not come to fight. We have come to talk. Please relay our message to the Galactic Council. I cannot allow. You cannot stop us, Bin interrupted, her voice still polite but firm. Your fleet poses no threat to this vessel. Please do not force a confrontation neither of us wants. Al's face turned a darker shade of blue. He was being dismissed like a child. His fleet was being called irrelevant. But deep down, he knew it was true. If that massive ship decided to fight, his 30 vessels would be destroyed in seconds. I will relay your message, he said tightly, but do not move from this position. We will move wherever we choose, Bin replied. But we will not attack, that is our promise. The communication ended. Al immediately opened a priority channel to Council Station. "This is Fleet Captain Al. We have encountered an unknown vessel of massive scale. It identifies as human. I repeat, human. Requesting immediate guidance." On Council Station, High Arbiter received the message and felt his ancient heart skip a beat. Human. That was impossible, but Al was not a liar. "Call emergency session," ordered. "All immediately." Within minutes the council chamber was full, arrived still laughing. What emergency could there be? Did someone spill their drink? Then he saw the images from Al's fleet, the massive ship, the impossible scale. His laughter died in his throat. What is that?" he whispered. "That," said gravely, "is humanity's answer to our silence." The chamber erupted in chaos, shouted questions. Some demanded military action, others urged caution. No one could believe what they were seeing. And in the darkness of space, the quiet began to move. Its massive engines ignited, creating gravitational ripples that shook every ship in the system. It was heading toward Prime, toward the Council Station. Admiral Hansol stood on his bridge, watching the planet grow larger in the viewport. "Open a channel to the Council," he said. "It is time they heard what we have to say." The galaxy would never be the same. The Galactic Council chamber had never seen such chaos. For 10,000 years, decisions had been made with calm and order, but today, shouted over each other. Some pounded their appendages on the ancient stone table. Others transmitted angry thoughts directly into the minds of their colleagues. High Arbiter tried to maintain control, but even his ancient authority was being challenged. On the main display, the image of the quiet dominated everything. It hung in orbit above Prime, visible to anyone who looked up at the sky, a new star that should not exist. A peaceful delegate from a species that looked like living crystal tried to speak reason. "We must talk to them. Violence will only make things worse." "Talk," hissed. "They have invaded our space with a weapon of war. This is an act of aggression." "Is it?" I countered. "Or is it a response to our arrogance? We ignored them for 3 years. We dismissed them as primitive. Perhaps this is what we deserve." Stood up, his scales flashing with anger. "You would defend these newcomers." "I would defend common sense," I said calmly. "Look at their ship. If they wanted war, we would already be at war. They are here to talk. We should listen." In the background, military advisors were presenting data that made the increasingly uncomfortable. The Quiet's power output was enormous. Its reactor generated more energy than the entire Council defense fleet combined. Its shields had unknown properties that their scientists could not explain, and its engines used physics that should not work. General Al entered the chamber, his armored body clanking with each step. He was old, paranoid, and had spent his entire life preparing for threats that never came. Now, a real threat had arrived, and he was almost excited. "High Arbiter," he said, his voice like grinding metal. "I recommend immediate military action. We have the orbital defense platform. It was designed to destroy asteroid threats. I believe it can damage their shields, and then our fleet can finish them." "Absolutely not," I shouted. "That would be an act of war." "They brought a warship to our home," Al shot back. "They have made their intentions clear." Raised his hand and silence fell. "General Al, what is the probability of success?" Al hesitated. "Unknown, but we must try. If we show weakness now, they will think they can threaten us whenever they wish." On the Quiet, Dr. Jin Song was preparing for the diplomatic meeting she hoped would happen. She had changed into formal clothes and was reviewing her cultural package one more time. She believed in peace. She believed in understanding. But she also knew that Admiral Hansol was a military man, and military men thought differently. She went to the bridge to speak with him. "Admiral, may I have a moment?" Hansol turned from the tactical display. "Dr. Song, what is it?" "I want to make sure we are approaching this correctly. The Council is scared. We have frightened them. Perhaps we should withdraw slightly, give them space to breathe." "No," Hansol said firmly. "If we withdraw, they will see it as weakness. They will think they can negotiate from a position of strength. We stay exactly where we are." "But Admiral—" "Doctor, I respect your expertise, but I have fought in wars. I have negotiated with enemies. And I know one truth: people only respect strength. The Council ignored us because we seemed weak. Now we seem strong. That is the only reason they will talk to us." Jin wanted to argue, but she could see the determination in his eyes. She hoped he was right. On the bridge, Aegis, the ship's AI, suddenly spoke in its calm voice. "Admiral, I am detecting unusual energy readings from the Council station. They are powering up a large weapon system." Captain Nu checked her sensors. "Confirmed. It is an orbital defense platform. Energy output increasing rapidly. Admiral, I believe they are preparing to fire." A tense silence fell over the bridge. Every officer turned to look at Admiral Hansol. This was the moment that would decide everything. If he ordered the Quiet to fire first, it would be war. If he ordered a retreat, humanity would look weak. And if he did nothing— "What is the weapon's estimated power?" Hansol asked calmly. "Enough to destroy a small moon," Min reported from weapons. "Against our shields, unknown. We have never tested them against this level of firepower." "Can we destroy the platform before it fires?" "Yes, sir, easily." Hansol was quiet for a long moment. Everyone waited. Young Ensign Shin, who had only been on the ship for 6 months, felt his heart pounding. He had joined the Space Force to explore, not to fight. He looked at the Admiral with wide eyes. "Admiral," said quietly, "if they fire and we do not defend ourselves, people could die." "I know," Hansol said, then he smiled slightly. "But they will not die. Captain Nu, what are our shield specifications?" Nu understood immediately. "Our shields can absorb the platform's full output with less than 5% drain. The ship will not even feel it." "Then we let them fire," Hansol said. "We let them use their best weapon, and we show them it means nothing." "Sir, are you certain?" Min asked. "If the calculations are wrong—" "They are not wrong. Engineer Wu Jin designed those shields. I trust his work. Let them fire." The order went out to the crew. Everyone braced. Some prayed. Others just watched the tactical displays. And on Council Station, General Al gave the order he had been waiting his whole life to give. "Fire!" The orbital defense platform unleashed its full power. A beam of pure energy, bright enough to illuminate half the planet, lanced across space. It hit the Quiet's shield's dead center. For a moment, the Quiet was surrounded by a sphere of burning light. Energy cascaded across the shield's surface in waves of color. It looked like the ship was being destroyed. But when the light faded, the Quiet was still there, undamaged, unmoved. The shields had absorbed every joule of energy without even flickering. On the Quiet's bridge, officers cheered. Ensign let out a breath he had been holding. Engineer Wu Jin, watching from engineering, felt tears of relief in his eyes. His shields had worked. In the Council chamber, absolute silence fell. They stared at the display, unable to process what they had just seen. Their most powerful weapon had done nothing, not even scratched the paint. General Al's face went pale. "Impossible," he whispered. "Nothing can withstand that beam." Sat down heavily, his earlier arrogance completely gone. "What have we done?" he asked quietly. High Arbiter felt fear for the first time in 1,000 years. This was not just a powerful ship. This was technology beyond their understanding. Humanity had somehow surpassed the Council in ways they could not explain. Then a communication came through. Admiral Hansol's face appeared on every screen in the Council chamber. He looked calm, not angry, not triumphant, just disappointed. "Members of the Galactic Council," he said, "for 3 years we sent messages of peace. We explained who we are. We asked for nothing but recognition and dialogue. Your answer was silence. Today you answered with violence. Your weapon has spoken. Our ship has answered. Now will you finally talk to us as equals? Looked around at the other, some looked ashamed, others looked angry, but all of them looked scared. He knew he had to make a decision. Pride had already cost them too much. Come, said his mental voice tired and old. Come to Council Station, we will listen. No, Hansol said firmly. You will come to us, you will come to our ship, you will see what humanity has built, and then we will talk. It was an insult, it was a demand, it was everything the Council was not used to, but they had no choice. We accept, said quietly, we will come to you. The communication ended. In the council chamber, none of them could look at each other. They had been humbled. They had been shown their own weakness. And now they had to go to the humans and admit they had been wrong. The galaxy had changed, and there was no going back. The council delegation shuttle approached the quiet with a mixture of fear and curiosity. Inside the small craft, High Arbiter sat in silence. Around him, the other were equally quiet. Even, who was usually so loud and confident, said nothing. Through the viewport they could see the quiet growing larger. Up close, it was even more impressive than the sensor readings had shown. The hull was covered in intricate patterns of armor and technology, weapons that could destroy worlds, engines that bent space itself, and somewhere inside, the humans who had built all of this. I have lived for 3,000 years, said quietly. In all that time I have never been afraid. Today I am afraid. We should not be here, muttered. This is a trap. A's crystalline body chimed softly. If they wanted to kill us, we would already be dead. No, they want something else. Respect, understanding, the same things we them. The shuttle entered a massive hangar bay. It was large enough to hold 100 ships the size of theirs, and as they landed, they could see dozens of human fighters parked in neat rows. Each one a technological marvel, each one proof that humanity was not primitive anymore. The delegation walked down the shuttle ramp, and for the first time in galactic history, the Galactic Council set foot on human territory. Waiting for them was Admiral Han Sol, Captain Na, and a woman in formal diplomatic robes. Ambassador Bora was 60 years old, with silver hair and eyes that had seen much. She had spent her entire life preparing for this moment. She had studied every known alien species. She had learned their languages, their customs, their histories, and now she would speak for all of humanity. High Arbiter, she said, bowing respectfully. Honored, welcome aboard the Quiet. I am Ambassador Bora, representative of Earth and all human colonies. Studied her carefully. She showed no fear, no arrogance, just quiet dignity. Ambassador, we have come as you requested. We will listen. Then please follow me. We have much to discuss. Bora led them through the ship's corridors and they could not help but stare. They passed residential areas where human families lived. Children played in parks that should not exist inside a warship. They walked through gardens filled with plants from Earth, green and growing under artificial sunlight. They saw schools, hospitals, shops, restaurants. This is not just a warship, I observed. This is a city, a community. Yes, Bora said. The Quiet is home to 50,000 people. We built it to be self-sufficient, to survive for years away from Earth if necessary. We built it to carry all of humanity's hope and determination across the stars. They arrived at a large conference room. It was beautiful, with windows showing the stars outside and decorations that represented Earth's diverse cultures. In the center was a round table, deliberately designed so no one sat at the head. Everyone would be equal here. As they sat, Dr. Jin Song entered with several assistants carrying data pads. Honored guests, she said warmly. I have prepared information about human culture and history. I hope you will take time to review it. We want you to know us, not just our weapons. She activated a holographic display, and the room filled with images. Art from every human civilization. music that ranged from ancient instruments to modern symphonies, mathematical equations that showed humanity's unique approach to science, philosophy from 1,000 different traditions. "We are a young species," Jin said, "but we are not simple. We have struggled, we have fought wars, we have made mistakes, but we have also created beauty. We have reached for understanding. We have tried to be better than we were." They watched in silence. Some of the images moved them. The music was strange but powerful. The mathematics was different from what they knew, but elegant in its own way. Professor Jinho, with excited energy, stepped forward. "May I ask questions? I have studied your species for years through transmissions. I would love to learn more directly." Several seemed surprised that a human would want to learn from them, but smiled and said, "Ask, we will answer." For an hour, Jinho and they exchanged information, scientific principles, cultural practices, historical events, and slowly the ice began to break. These were not monsters, these were not enemies, they were just people trying to understand each other. Finally, High Arbiter spoke. "Ambassador Bora, your ship is impressive, your technology is advanced, your culture is rich, but I must ask the question that everyone is thinking. What do you want from us?" Bora looked at each in turn. "We want what we have always wanted: recognition, a seat at the table, the chance to trade with other species, to share knowledge, to learn from you and teach you in return. We want to be part of the galactic community, not conquer it." "Then why this ship?" demanded. "Why come with such force?" Admiral Hansol spoke for the first time since the meeting began. "Because you left us no choice. We sent peaceful messages for 3 years. We explained ourselves. We asked for nothing but conversation, and you ignored us. You dismissed us as primitive, as unworthy. So we built the Quiet to prove we were neither." "We built one ship like this," Captain Na added. "Just one, not a fleet, not an invasion force. One ship designed to open doors, not destroy them." Was quiet for a long time. Then he did something that shocked every other. He stood up and bowed deeply. "On behalf of the Galactic Council, I apologize. We failed in our duty. We let arrogance blind us to a new species reaching for the stars. We ignored your messages because you seemed small. We made you prove your worth with force because we were too proud to extend the hand of friendship first." Ambassador Bora felt emotion rising in her chest. After all the years of silence, after all the frustration and anger, finally, someone from the council had said the words humanity needed to hear. "Thank you," she said quietly. "Your apology means more than you know." Over the next hours, the real negotiations began. The council offered humanity a formal seat on the council. Earth would have full voting rights and access to galactic trade routes. In return, humanity agreed to share some of their technological insights, carefully selected to help both sides. Lieutenant Wu arrived with an invitation. "High Arbiter, some of your delegation expressed interest in our fighters. Would you like a demonstration flight?" Several looked interested. O was particularly excited. "Yes, I would very much like to see your craft in action." Wu grinned. "Even better, how would you like to fly in one?" An hour later, who had never trusted humans were strapped into fighter cockpits, screaming with joy and terror as Wu's squadron performed maneuvers that should be impossible. It was an olive branch, a moment of shared experience that broke down more barriers than any speech could. In the engineering section, Wu Jin was having careful discussions with council scientists. He would not share military secrets, but he could talk about basic principles. How humanity had approached physics differently. How isolation had forced innovation. The council scientists listened with fascination, realizing that there was still so much to learn. Captain Na met privately with council military commanders. The discussion was frank. Humanity would not be defenseless. They would maintain the Quiet and other defensive capabilities, but they had no interest in conquest. They offered mutual defense agreements, treaties that would protect both sides. As the sun set on Prime, visible through the conference room windows, Ambassador Bora and High Arbiter signed the formal recognition treaty. Humanity was officially a member of the Galactic Council, no longer ignored, no longer dismissed, equal. "What will you do now?" asked. "Your ship has served its purpose. Will you dismantle it?" Admiral Hansol shook his head. "No, the Quiet will remain in service, but its role will change. We will rename it the Flagship of Peaceful Contact. It will travel the galaxy as a symbol of what we built and what we stand for. Power, yes, but power in the service of peace." Months later, the galaxy had transformed. Human trade ships moved through Council space freely. Alien ambassadors walked the streets of Earth cities, marveling at the diversity of one small world. Dr. Jin worked alongside Council scientists on a joint research station, studying mysteries neither side could solve alone. Lieutenant Wu commanded the first mixed squadron of human and alien pilots. They trained together, learning from each other, building friendships that crossed species. The pilots joked in multiple languages and competed to see who could pull the turns. The Quiet orbited Earth now, a guardian and a reminder. Children looked up at it in the night sky and dreamed of the stars. It represented everything humanity had achieved, not through conquest, not through violence, but through determination, innovation, and the refusal to be ignored. Admiral Hansol stood on the bridge one evening, looking down at the blue-green world below. Captain Na joined him. "Do you think we did the right thing?" she asked, "coming to the council with such force?" Hansol was quiet for a moment. "I think we did the only thing that would work. The council would never have listened to words alone. They needed to see our strength before they could respect our peace. And now the real work begins. Building relationships, learning from others, teaching what we know. It will take generations, but at least now we have the chance." Far below, in a park in Seoul, a young girl looked up at the stars. She could see the Quiet, a bright point of light among thousands. Her teacher had told her the story, how humanity had been ignored, how they had built a ship that changed everything, how they had earned their place among the stars. The girl made a decision. Someday she would go up there. She would travel to the stars. She would meet aliens from other worlds. She would be part of humanity's great adventure. Because humanity had learned an important lesson. The galaxy did not give respect freely. It had to be earned. But once earned, once you proved your worth and your determination, the stars were open. The future was waiting. And Quiet had indeed swept across the stars, not the quiet of silence or submission, but the quiet of confidence, of strength held in check, of power used wisely, of a species that had grown up in isolation, reached for the cosmos, and found its place among the ancient races of the galaxy. The age of human isolation was over. The age of humanity among the stars had truly begun.